My name is William, and long before modern tabloids, one empress turned private desire into one of the most watched dramas in Europe. Catherine the Great ruled with nerve, wit, and force, yet her love life was never just gossip. In her world, a glance could lift a man, a rumor could wound a court, and affection itself could become a form of power. Think of the Russian court at night. Tall windows reflect candlelight, gold frames glow in the dark, soft shoes cross polished floors. A guard stands still by a door, while a servant carries a folded note through a side hall. It looks calm. It was not calm. Behind the silk, mirrors and music, the court lived on whispers, and no whisper traveled faster than one about the empress and the man closest to her. Catherine arrived in Russia as a young bride and learned early that rank does not promise warmth. She studied the language, watched the rituals of court, and understood that survival meant reading people well. Her marriage gave her status, but accounts from her life suggest very little comfort. She found herself in a grand world full of lace, prayer, form, and display, yet still deeply alone. That early loneliness matters because it shaped everything that came later. People often speak of Catherine's affairs as if they were signs of pure indulgence, yet the truth is even more astonishing. Her private life grew out of need, discipline, danger, and a sharp grasp of human nature. She did not seek love from a place of ease. She sought it from within, a court where every feeling had a cost. One of the first men to change her world was Grigory Orlov, a guards officer with bold manners and the kind of self-belief that stands out at once. He was handsome, direct, and alive in a court that could feel stiff and cold. Some historians believe Catherine found in him what royal life had denied her for too long: warmth, excitement, and the sense of being wanted as a woman, rather than managed as a symbol. But Orlov was never just a lover, hidden behind a curtain. He stood near the center of the struggle that lifted Catherine to the throne. He and his circle gave muscle to a moment that changed her fate. That is why her romance with him mattered so much. It was not merely intimate, it was tied to a new order. When people looked at Orlov, they did not just see charm, they saw access. That was the danger built into all of Catherine's bonds. In an ordinary home, love may stay private for a while. In a palace, it begins to gather meaning at once. A man who enters the ruler's rooms gains more than affection. He gains notice, envy, hope, and fear. His clothes are watched, his carriage is noted, his rise is measured. Even a gift or a supper can set a court talking. The full story behind this might surprise you, because Catherine seems to have known these risks very well. She could be warm, but she was not naive. She understood that favor changed the air around a person. It drew flatterers, rivals, and men who wished to profit by standing near him. At court, desire never arrived alone. It brought a crowd with it. Picture the details: wax running down a silver stick, fur thrown over a chair by the fire, ink drying on a note before dawn, tobacco in the cloth of a uniform, snow beyond the window, while voices dropped behind a half-shut door. In such a world, servants learned to see everything and reveal nothing. Privacy existed, but only in narrow pockets. Her bond with Orlov cooled in time, and that tells us something vital. Catherine could feel deeply, yet she would not let feeling blind her. Accounts differ on why the closeness faded. Some point to pride, some to habit, some to the slow strain that falls on any affair lived in public shadow. Whatever the cause, she did not cling to the past. She moved on. and the court took note. The empress could grant affection, but she could also withdraw it. Then came Grigory Potemkin, and the story changed in tone. Potemkin was not simply handsome or bold. He was clever, restless, dramatic, and able to meet Catherine mind for mind. Their link seems to have been more than romance. It carried wit, trust, command, and sometimes conflict. Some historians believe they may even have entered a private marriage, though the proof is uncertain, and the claim still invites debate. And here is the intriguing part most people miss. With Potemkin, Catherine's emotional life begins to look less like scandal and more like partnership. Their letters suggest warmth, teasing, complaint, need, and real attachment. Even when the first heat of the affair appears to have passed, the bond itself did not vanish. He remained close, useful, and at times deeply personal to her. That is rare in any court, but it is striking in one built on rank and caution. Why did it last in that form? Perhaps because Potemkin gave Catherine something beyond charm. He gave her an equal current of energy. He could speak hard truths, imagine big plans, and still stir the private part of her life. Courts are full of shallow closeness. This seems to have been something richer, and for that very reason, it drew even more attention. Of course, the gossip never slept. It rarely does when a woman holds supreme power. Catherine's favorites were judged with a hunger that says much about the people watching her. Their manners, rooms, titles, and schedules all became part of the theatre. If one man received land, the court asked why. If another gained an office, the court guessed who had smiled at breakfast. Her private world became a map. Others tried to read for signs of policy. Some of these men were young. Some were polished, more than profound. Some seemed to have offered ease, charm, and company rather than deep influence. Catherine often settled such ties with gifts, rank, or estates once the closeness ended. This has helped create the image of an empress, collecting lovers with cold efficiency. But that image is too thin. It leaves out the emotional weather of her life. Consider what trust meant for her. She had known a barren marriage, court danger, and the hard truth that every private act could become public talk. Even in desire, she had to test character. Was this man discreet? Was he vain? Would he grow jealous? Would he mistake nearness for authority? In that setting, intimacy was never free. It came wrapped in velvet, rank, and risk. There is a sharper truth here as well. Men with power have long taken lovers and been called vigorous. Women with power took lovers and were called dangerous. Catherine lived beneath that double rule every day. She knew that her body, her choices, and even her moods were watched with special intensity. Some of the wilder tales later told about her are not history at all. They are slander shaped to punish a woman who refused to live by meek rules. That matters because it brings her back into focus. Catherine was not a crude legend of appetite. She was a ruler with a complex private life, lived under pressure that would twist almost any story. She loved, judged, rewarded, protected herself, and tried to create some small space for real warmth within a system built on display. At times she may have wanted tenderness, at times wit, at times calm, at times simple loyalty. None of those things were easy to find in a palace. By the end, what stays with me is not excess, but sadness. Catherine could steer armies, shape law, and command a vast court, yet she could not make closeness obey. Lovers drifted, changed, aged, or stayed useful in ways that blurred feeling. Candles still burned by the mirrors, music still moved through formal rooms. The river still froze beyond the palace walls, but power never solved the oldest problem in the story. How do you let someone near when your whole world teaches caution? So what does Catherine the Great's scandalous love life really reveal? Not that she was ruled by impulse, and not that she treated desire lightly, but that love, at the top of power, becomes a test of judgment. She would not accept the silence expected of neglected wives. She made a private world on her own terms, and for that she was admired, desired, and condemned in equal measure. If this made you see Catherine differently, tell me below. If you enjoyed this look into the hidden heart of an empress, leave a like, and join me again for more stories where passion and power meet behind closed doors. Because the past often hides its deepest truths in the places where a desire, secrecy, and human nature refuse to stay still.